Wollondilly Shire Council Councillors last meeting after they were officially stood down on the 12th of August. So what did your councillors do for you in this last meeting that will determine whether you should vote for them? Well, here are some things that may not have been included in the minutes. It started out with their goodbye speeches, so I will give you a summary of a few that I think are important. Councillor Michael Bonasic, 21 years in council, he stated that he opposed the rate increase of 50.72%, but in council records it shows it was a unanimous decision. He further stated that a few whingers will complain and that he didn't want Picton McDonald's. So what about the opportunity for jobs that created? Yet he is claiming he's community minded. I mean, opposing jobs doesn't seem all that community spirited. Councillor Cole Mitchell, who's been in council for over 20 years, apparently stated he is never wrong and promoted the council as being one of the 1 in 7 councils as being fit for the future. However, failed to address the part that IPART doesn't look at efficiency when determining whether council is fit. IPART also doesn't monitor whether they are maintaining infrastructure spending, only whether they have the funds to be fit in the future. He seems to have missed that part. Councillor Lou Amato, 4 years. Well, he was productive. He moved himself from council position on 20k to a legislative position of approximately 150k in 4 years. But isn't he still working full-time in his auto shop? Seems to be a great gig if you can get it. I mean, a legislative member who appears to have a second full-time job, his views are that this council is a great functioning council with the best interests of the community and all councillors should be re-elected. Interesting, considering how the infrastructure backlog went up, and one of the primary purposes in the Local Government Act is that infrastructure be maintained. That's an interesting concept, but an expected one from someone who may be accepting money from the New South Wales Government to the tune of potentially 150k a year until 2023, but not attending to the duties in full capacity, as he appears to be working in his auto shop full time. Isn't he supposed to be, or meant to be, a legislative member full time? Councillor Kate Terry, 4 years. Seems to be influenced by good looks, went on about the IT guy Marcello Chiodo. So perhaps her interest for being in council wasn't the community, but the IT guy. So what did they decide for you? They decided 8 votes. Councillor Mitchell, Michael Bonasic, Ben Bonasic, Judith Hannon, Kate Terry, Lou Amato, Hilton Gibson, Simon Landau against Ray Law to impose a further increase or to approve the recommendations that were put forward to the GM pay rise. This is what they have determined to be an emergency in caretaker mode. GM pay rise or recommendations is apparently an emergency, according to 8 councillors. Onto the notice of motion put by Ray Law to account for the expenditure of the SRV. Apparently, according to Councillor Ben Bonasic, some people don't understand the legislation and are easily confused, as apparently it is a standard rate variation and not a special rate variation. And standard is calculated differently. But what is confusing is that it was advertised as a special rate variation. So does this mean that council has fraudulently obtained money from the community? Because according to Councillor Ben Bonasic, it is a standard rate variation increase, not a special rate variation increase. And so therefore expenditure couldn't be monitored so easily. Maybe since he was so adamant in the fact that this is a standard rate variation and not a special rate variation, he should report the discrepancy to the appropriate department against corruption. He seems to be the one who understands the legislations, and I'm sure his obligations, including reporting to the appropriate bodies. So perhaps he can help out those poor people that are confused by this legislation business. The conclusion is that whilst this motion was being put to the councillors, the Mayor Simon Landau appeared to be very disrespectful and mouthed across the room to Ali Dench and Michael Malone, what should I do? And then allowed the staff to put in what they would like, because ultimately it will likely affect the staff. This resulted in Michael Malone, the Director of Infrastructure, going across and appearing to advise councillors what should be done. So it looks like councillors are being instructed by the council staff. I'm pretty sure the legislation states councillors oversee council, but perhaps Councillor Ben Bonasic, with his thorough knowledge of the Local Government Act, could clear that up for us, as we may be confused. So by 7 votes to 2, Ray Law and Judith Hannon against, councillors do not want to restrict the SRV to just address the backlog as advertised. This is worth remembering going into council elections. You need to remember this when voting on the 10th of September, and remember, we endorse Kelly Ferguson, East Ward Independent, who wants to ensure your money goes to where it's supposed to. This spending has to stop.